How's everyone doing this evening? Well, welcome to my home. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Jonathan Jefferson, and I'm the 18th president of Roxbury Community College.
Woo!
I don't have a podium, so I'm going to do what young people do and try to read it over a phone. But when you're over 50 years old and you're progressives, this is going to be a challenge. But I am certainly thrilled to have you here tonight for this important occasion and to have an opportunity to celebrate a bit with you. And I just literally ended my first year. I think I'm supposed to talk into this. I literally just finished my first year as president. And it's really been a tremendous and wonderful experience. So I tell everyone that I'm in month one of the second year. But one of the things I learned in being president at Roxbury, because I grew up actually in New York, and even though I worked in Massachusetts for 10 years, 9 years prior to taking this job, I actually never lived in Boston until this year. And so I learned a lot about Boston. I learned a lot about Roxbury and the community. And one thing that has been so amazing to me is the vibrancy of this community. You're sitting in a place that was born out of activism. You may know that. You're sitting in a place that if people didn't act up like you and like me, there would be 95 who would be sitting here right now. So we're in a wonderful and gracious community, and I'm certainly glad to be here with you tonight. And see, I already lost my notes. And this is just a testament of all that we're doing here. And if you think about this, there's a lot going on. There are actually 3 events going on campus tonight. There's this event. There's the Massachusetts Alliance for Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance, and there's an entrepreneurship workshop going on all at the same time. So if you have to walk a little bit further from the parking lot, it's because this is a vibrant community, and we're certainly glad that you're here with us on this evening. You know, one of the things that we're proud of here at Roxbury, and these notes don't make any sense anymore. One of the things that we're very proud of here at Roxbury is we are the only predominantly Black institution in the Northeast and in New England. But that's only one gem that we have. So Roxbury Community College is approximately 80 to 90% students of color. The vast majority of those students happen to be a darker brown hue like myself, but there are many students who are a lighter brown hue. And so our Hispanic population, Hispanic Latino population, I was born with a 19 in my name, so I may say some things that are different from being said today. But our Latino Hispanic population is about 24%. One of the things that we want to be designated is not only a PBI, but we want to be designated as an HSI. And if we are able to achieve that designation, we will be the only school in Massachusetts and the only school in New England that will be both a PBI and an HSI. So we are certainly working on that. You know, it's tremendous. I was listening to the video that was done for this production, and there was a voice imitating of 48 minus 1. And in that, on that video, it says, we could do nothing without the immigrants. And if you think about it, we are a nation of immigrants. Either you immigrated here or you were imported here. But one or the other happened to you for you to be here, because the vast majority of us are not natives. And so the work that we do, the things that we do are so very, very important. When you look at what's happening to our Haitians, brothers and sisters, what they want to do with the Haitians and send 520,000 people back to Haiti. First of all, Haiti couldn't take that many people coming back. But secondly, you're talking about people who will have an impact on our healthcare system. They'll have an impact on many of the things that are going on right here that will impact us today. Think about assisted living facilities. Think about nurses. Think about all the things that people think are invisible, but they work because immigrants are behind them making it work. And so we have to continue to fight. We have to continue to work together. We have to continue to strive to make our mark. And this is the place for you to do it. We have always been a place of activism. We have always been a place of gathering for the community. We have always been a place where people can come together and have broad, deep, wide, and even controversial conversations. So let's continue that. So welcome to my home. I forgot all about my notes, but I am so glad you're here. And I have to go to 2 more events. So I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to skedaddle, but know that my heart is here with you. And thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to Roxbury Community College for hosting us. I am Christina Silva. I am the managing editor for local news at the Boston Globe. This is our second event this year with Roxbury Community College, and we are so grateful to have such an important partner in this historic and beautiful community. Today, we are here to celebrate Latinos in Massachusetts. Yeah, that's right. We are here with some of the most celebrated and accomplished Latinos in our community, people who are doing the hard work every day to uplift other Latinos. So we're very grateful to you all for the work you do every day. Thank you. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about our people. We're going to talk about how we're contributing to the fabric of Massachusetts. We're going to talk about our food, of course, our culture, immigration a little bit, and businesses. We're going to open up to you all for questions about in like 35 minutes. So start thinking up your really good questions to stump us. And then after that, around 7:30, we'll have a reception where there will be food, don't worry. So let's start up. Carlos, Aneta, Priscilla, Steph, we're so grateful for you being here. I would love to start the conversation with, you know, in the past decade, Latinos have been the fastest growing population in Massachusetts. We are contributing in many, many ways. What are some things you think that are going unrecognized by the Latino community? What are some things that you want people to know about the Latino community here? Carlos, would you like to start?
Thank you very much. Carlos Bueno, General Manager at the Raffles Boston. What I would say, and Aneda and Amplify ALX has done an incredible amount of job getting all the data together, but is that we are here. We are here in large numbers. I'm in the hospitality sector, and I am very proud that as I walk into Raffles Boston, I see Latinos in managerial roles, at reception. We are big consumers. We're one of the largest consumers in Massachusetts. So we are a population that is thriving, but also a big consumer. And if you're not investing or looking into doing more business with the Latino community, you're really missing out.
Would you like to add?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Priscilla Souza. I'm a state representative for the 6th Middlesex District, Framingham, Southside, West Side. If you know, you know. The one thing I would love for people to know about Latinos is that we're not a monolith. We are diverse. We are dozens of countries represented here in Boston alone. We have different experiences, and I was born in Brazil. I came here. I had the undocumented immigrant experience. My brother was born here. He's never had to worry about his green card a day in his life. That doesn't make him any less Latino than I am. That doesn't make, and so there are so many different walks, experiences, and I don't know how many times I've been in a room where it's like, well, so what do the Latinos think about this? Like, I don't know. I don't speak for all of them. We are not a monolith. So I would love for people to know that.
Hi, thank you for having this. Going along with what Priscilla said, 2 things. One, just as Latinos are not a monolith in society, I often see the misconception about Latinos in the workforce. Latinos they are in C-suites, they are VC investors, they're also janitors, teachers, politicians, as we have here, journalists. They are all across our economy. And yes, there is huge amounts of pride in being a janitor or running cleaning companies, just like there is pride in being a business executive. And the second thing I would say is every one of those roles often comes with unseen, unpaid labor. The janitors at your school are mentoring your students just like a teacher or principal is. And same thing with senior leaders and executives in the boardroom. They're not experts for the Latino community, for their nation, or any part of their identity, and yet they still do all of this unseen work about educating, often white people, about their experiences. And there is labor in that, and that should be recognized.
Everything they said. And what I will add is that many people don't know, they're not aware that Latinos, we are the second largest demographic in Massachusetts after the white community. And so we're roughly 13.5% of the population here. And in the last decade, we accounted for 26% of the GSP growth in Massachusetts. So if you think about that, that we're basically batting at double our, our capacity, or no, punching at double our weight. That's the analogy. Because Latinos are here to contribute. Latinos are not takers. Latinos are people that move here from their original countries or from other parts of the country to make life better.
One thing I'm hearing a common theme is that people are not recognizing us to our fullest extent. I hear Spanish and Portuguese everywhere I go, in Cambridge, in downtown Boston, in JP, everyone, lots of people I hear, obviously the jumbo blasting from the cab drivers. I love our community here. But it does seem like people don't see us for some reason. What is it? What do you think? What direction do we need to go in so that mofongo and rice and beans are just as recognized as the lobster roll? And beyond that, right? Recognizing our contributions in City Hall and the legislature and the business community. Why are people not seeing and hearing us, Anita?
So if I may, I mean, it's all about narrative, right? At the end of the day, if stories are not told, if we don't know that folks are contributing, that are in the C-suite, that are doing amazing work in the legislature, and that are contributing to the progress of Massachusetts, then we don't know. You know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know, right? So telling the stories is really important. That's why I'm so proud to see you at the Globe and to see, you, Steph, at Axios, and so many other journalists that are owning the narratives and telling this many stories, multifaceted stories. And also, I'm really proud of what we're doing at ALX, right? Because that is one of the main goals that we have. We know that we're here to stay, we're here to contribute, we're here to advance the prosperity of our Commonwealth, to make Massachusetts more competitive. And it's important that we share the stories and that we let folks know that Latinos are here in every space, and that Latinos are contributing to the advancement of society and to the economic advancement of this country, this whole nation as a whole. And so it's important that the stories are told and that we continue repeating the stories, because we want to make sure that we're not in an echo chamber, right? That we're sharing the stories with allies that understand the importance of believing and investing in this community that is so important to the sustainability of this state and the country as a whole.
I think it's important to create space, which Ineda is amazing at doing, and creating spaces where Latinos can be celebrated, and protect those spaces wherever we are. Be able, always, if you're looking down, it's supposed to be helping the person, the next Latino up. And as we occupy space, I joke all the time that I'm unapologetically Latina, aggressively Brazilian. And I do that for a reason, because I want to take up space so that that we don't become invisible. I joke all the time that Chicago dyes the river green for St. Patrick's Day. Here's hoping one day that Charles is going to be green for 7 de Setembro. And not just Brazilians, but aggressively take up space, not in a way that's disrespectful, not in a way that's combative, but take up space so that we stop being invisible.
Beautifully said. When we talk about food and we talk about mofongo being as known as a clam chowder or a lobster roll, I also think about all the progress that we are making. How so many of our ingredients that we grew up through are part of the dining scene. And I also think about uplifting the work that already happens. We have great restaurateurs in our community like Hector and Nivea Pina, and what they've done with their restaurant group, going from Cambridge to the South Side, going to Dorchester, going now to Worcester, and then creating more opportunities so that those venues are on Newbury Street, they're on Boylston Street, they're in the Seaport. That's already happening. We need more voices to amplify, and that's where we go for our mofongo, and that's where we go for our sancocho.
It is good food. Anything you want to add, Steph?
I want to see chivas all over Boston. One day that will happen. Colombian style chivas for sure. But I think a lot of us, when it comes to whether it's mass communication, whether it's the way we operate, where we work, we're still so sometimes more fragmented than we think, especially if, if your FYP does not show you content around Boston outside of your own neighborhood, like you're probably missing out on stuff. I think it's so important for us to see local businesses on Newberry in the Seaport, but I also feel like so often if we don't go outside of our own neighborhoods, or if we don't remind people that our neighborhoods like Dorchester, Eastie, Roxbury have community and have so many things to promote or experience, we're not capturing all of Boston, right? We need both. And I know that's something that business owners have told me, that residents have told me, neighbors have told me. That's what they want to see as far as representation. And so I think there's a little bit of that, a little bit of work that I need to do and other people need to do as journalists to highlight that, just like we would highlight whoever ends up on the James Beard nominee list. Hype up those empanada spots, hype up Mofongo where you can find it, right? But I think all of us need to, it's going to take people from many corners to sort of point out what already exists as well as what can exist in the future.
That's a good point. Recently, I was reading a story about one of those like pizza rankings of Boston, who has the best pizza, and I was like, I will not stop until we do this for the rice and beans. So, to come. So, Carlos, you talked a lot about the progress we've made, and that's true. Latinos nationally are the fastest growing population graduating from college, enrolling in college, starting small businesses. But sometimes these titles about fastest growing represent how far we have to come. Latinos are also, some of the poorest populations in the United States. We don't own homes at the same rate as other groups, or have those college degrees, or have wealth at the highest levels. What barriers do you think we as Massachusetts might need to overcome to help the Latino communities? What policies would you like to see, or even just structures that you're hearing from the Latino community that people need here?
How much time do I have? Listen, policy is very personal, right? Policy impacts every single aspect of our lives, every single aspect. And so that's why, again, in my job, I focus a lot, not just on elevating the stories and supporting small businesses, because I don't know if this is working. Okay, yes, it's working. When I was listening to you speak about the businesses, when I'm like walking down the street or driving somewhere and I see a Latino business, I literally stop and I'm like, click, and I send the picture to my team because we support small businesses, right? And so I want to make sure that we're aware of these businesses so they work with us, and we work with them to help them scale and grow, because part of the challenge are a lot of systemic barriers, right? So unfortunately, despite the fact that Latinos, yeah, this is weird. Is this going to work better? Okay, there we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Despite the fact that Latinos are starting businesses at a faster rate than any other ethnic group, Latino businesses tend to be smaller, right? They don't have access to capital, access to opportunity, access to procurement, right? And we know that those are the biggest opportunities for businesses to grow. When somebody invests in your business and you have access to capital, then that frees up your own. You don't have to bootstrap the business growth, right? When you have a contract, right? Like you were mentioning Hector and Nivea. I mean, we work very closely with them, and anytime we see opportunities for contracts, we support them to get more opportunities, because that's the only way that you can grow a business. And I will say, Christina, that in Massachusetts we are making strides. We have a long way to go, but we are making strides. We're doing much better than other places, in the sense that we have legislators and we have leaders. We have the governor and mayors and other leaders who care about this and who actually focus on solutions to remove these barriers that exist, because they have been around for a little too long, right? I mean, so for instance, with liquor licenses and all that, right? Well, a restaurant, you spend more money on alcohol sometimes than on food, right? So that is also another way to grow your business. And when there are barriers to accessing liquor licenses, we have issues. And in any case, there's a lot of work to be done, but I think that we're going in the right direction. And the more people that talk about these issues, the more we're going to be able to accomplish, right? And also keeping that accountability, right? This is where we are, this is where we're going, this is how much progress we've made, this is where we want to be, having those benchmarks and KPIs so that you can really measure the progress. I think that's it.
Yeah, so, I'm definitely taking this one. Thank you. Yeah, so business owners, legislators, various folks in the community will tell me it comes down to those two things, not only, but oftentimes red tape and capital. Um, Startup founders are still getting funding, maybe less so for early level startups, especially in the tech sector. But the share of Latino-owned startups is, I'm pretty sure, under 1% or in the single digits, and it's even lower for Black startup founders. So the capital is not there, and that goes even more so if you're trying to start businesses and trying to get, you know, a retail store open, whether it's a flower shop or a food shop or, you know, your own contracting firm. Uh, that capital often, for some reason, misses Latinos, and sometimes they don't even know about it until after the fact. And then sometimes there's just red tape that defies logic. And so you may hear that the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts, Amplify, ALX, other organizations have been working with the Healy administration to cut some red tape. And they're working on that, but that has been a process years in the making. I reported 2 years ago about a restaurant owner who had a dream of getting a liquor license to scale up his Colombian business, his Colombian restaurant. He learned that he could not get a liquor license because he was not a citizen, despite putting all this money in, despite being a green card holder. He was blocked until the state changed the law and made that possible for individuals. But that was, you know, a law that existed for a century, and there was no basis behind it other than prohibition and discrimination against Irish nationals. So there's still, you know, old laws getting that are causing barriers, you know.
If I may, I'm just going to add very quickly because you talked about founders. So there are a lot of founders, but a lot of founders don't get funded, right? So it's not for a lack of ingenuity or lack of entrepreneurship. The spirit is there, but if the funding is not there, you can't grow.
I agree with everything that was said. There's so much to be done. Thanks to the work of the legislature. Before I was a representative, after the census of 2020, we redistricted and created these minority majority districts, which so many of my fellow Latino colleagues were elected because because these districts were created and we were able to run for office and represent. I don't know what the meetings with the Black and Latino caucus with the governor were before, but I can tell you, representation, anything that is being rolled out. Well, okay, where are we on contracting? Are we being DEI focused? Are we removing systemic barriers and being able to have an audience with the governor, the administration, with the leadership in the legislature, and bring those lived experiences. I think it's incredibly important. Representative Judith Garcia and I are working on a bill to establish the Domestic Workers Day. And it was funny, while we were planning, we were talking, we're like, well, should we have somebody who used to be a domestic worker speaking? I was like, well, do I count? Because I used to scrub people's toilets. And so being the people that we were representing and having true representation, I'm not saying that we are the end all and be all. We you know, I love us in the legislature, but I would never say that, you know, we are going to fix everything. But having those voices, I think, is a meaningful step towards policy change.
Anything you want to add?
I think they've covered it beautifully. Thank you.
I think that's great. You know, one thing that I hear from all of you also is the people who are advancing these topics and doing this work. And I do want to shout out the people who are making changes, not only on the business community, but also on the education front. We know so many of our Latino students need people advocating for them. And so just shout out to those people. So one difficult thing that is happening in our community that is very divisive is what's happening on immigration right now. We know many Latinos supported President Trump, Venezuelans, Cubans, Mexicans, Chicanos, you know, the immigrants themselves, people who were naturalized citizens, wanted to see other people removed. We're seeing that in our community. In Massachusetts, we recently reported that we've seen more people detained recently than we have in years. And it's it's Haitians, it's Mexicans, it's Guatemalans, it's Brazilians. Can you tell, Anita, I know you guys have put out a report saying how that's affecting small businesses, that people are not going out. So that means if you are a Latino small business owner doing hair or food, your customers aren't coming out. Can you guys talk a little bit about how this is affecting our community?
Sure. I mean, I can speak to just narratives that we've heard from our own businesses at ALX. Again, there's roughly 60,000 Latino-owned businesses in Massachusetts. So think about that. Think about the potential, the economic potential if those businesses made more money, employed more people, paid more taxes, right? So the possibilities are endless. And the challenge right now is that a lot of the businesses are in communities where there has been an increased immigration enforcement, such as Chelsea, Lawrence, Springfield. Well, Springfield is there's a lot of Puerto Ricans, but there's just different communities. Even in Worcester, we saw it recently, right? Boston, because Boston is considered a sanctuary city, and again, it's about protecting every resident's rights. This is not about giving preference to one person over another. It's about safety. It's about residents feeling that they belong because they're here contributing. They're here paying taxes. They're here working. Their kids are in the schools. And it's just really painful to see these small business owners saying, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And Priscilla could probably speak to this better than, because she's a state representative and she really speaks to her constituents all the time. But when you have a business that was used to having foot traffic all the time and all of a sudden they're not getting as much foot traffic because people are afraid of leaving their homes because there's so much trauma, I mean, that is devastating and it hurts us all because they're not going to be able to employ people. They're not going to be able to protect their own families. They're not going to pay the same amount of taxes, and they're not going to give back to the economy as much as they could if we didn't have this terrible situation.
And then these will be vacant businesses where former business used to be, and that the fear and everything else that's happening, it's real. And what we can all do is take action, continue to support the over 60,000 businesses that are out there, not letting the narrative, the ugly narrative, drive our actions and our decisions. To speak up, to attend rallies, to support new candidates. You made a bad decision with this candidate, bring up new voices, give new platforms, donate your time, donate those types of resources. Don't let the negative narrative dictate your actions.
Absolutely. I literally, if you know Brazilians, you know that we are people of very high cholesterol because we love our red meat. I was at a Brazilian butcher shop 2 weeks, the week of July 4th, and I am literally sitting with a grown man who's near tears because it's Friday afternoon and his parking lot is empty. And what's happening is, in a situation like this, he's like, it's not just that people are afraid of coming out. People are now not spending because they don't know what's going to happen next. He's like, I have it on good authority. Like most people are just like sitting at home, not living their lives, just ramen noodling it up, squirreling away money whenever they can, because they don't know, what's going to happen tomorrow. They don't want to come in immigrant occupied spaces or immigrant created spaces like a Brazilian butcher shop, and because they know it's a target environment. So, and I'll say this, I will keep saying it. If you follow me on Instagram, I get a little saucy on this issue. This is not about public safety. I'm not any safer for this. None of us are any safer because of this. This is not about rule of law. This is about being hunted for sport. This is a joke. And none of us are safer. And as Anita mentioned, 60,000 businesses, the potential there's there. But also, if those 60,000 businesses disappear, and a significant percentage of them are at risk over the next 6 months alone, I can speak for the businesses in my district, we are going to be in very tough shape, not just us, our community. Let me tell you, without commercial property taxes, without their contribution to the economy, it's going to be really hard for us to balance a budget on the state and keep the state running. So we all lose from this. I find it amazing, astounding in a system where so many of us are all of a sudden undocumented, and we're unwelcome in this country. But when it's time for us to own a house, all of a sudden our money's documented. When it's time for us to file our taxes, our tax ID numbers are documented. When it's time for us to start a business, up until recently, when we couldn't get driver's licenses, we could still buy a car and get paid excise taxes. All of a sudden, we're documented when it's convenient. So calling out that hypocrisy is something that I feel very, very passionate about.
So these are all impacts we're going to be seeing in the next, well, we're already seeing a lot of them, but a lot of the impact, to Priscilla's point, we're going to see in the next few years. So much of this will unfold when it comes to the state budget, our economy, but another long-term impact that folks are telling me about is on their health and their children's health, because they're experiencing both mental trauma and physiological impacts from trauma. And that affects children who are undocumented, who have undocumented parents, but also their friends, their neighbors, and their teachers, people all across their community. And so that is another impact we're going to see, even though it can't easily be quantified in money, in state revenue, in GDP, right? But there's so many ways in which we've still yet to see the full impact of immigration enforcement in our communities.
So I don't like to talk about problems without finding a solution to these problems, right? So let's look at opportunities here, right? What opportunities do we have? We have the opportunity to support all the Latino businesses that are in our communities because they need our support, right? And in fact, I have a team meeting with our entire team on Friday. And where are we going to have it? In Chelsea. We're going to go to Chelsea because I want to make sure that we support the community. We show the solidarity with them. We spend money there, et cetera. And that is really important. That's the first step. Second, to Carla's points, and I think a few of us have already said this, we have to talk about it, create awareness of the situation. Like, don't let this conversation stay here. Please share these data points, share this information with people that you know, people that you know that care, so that we can continue moving the needle and affecting change, right? Because at the end of the day, if we stay quiet, if we're not active, if we don't react to injustices, today's them, tomorrow could be us. And that's really important, right? Just creating that awareness to make sure that we're supporting each other.
Guys, we're going to open up in a few minutes to also get ready. But before we do that, I will say one thing that is coming out of this immigration conversation that I do appreciate are people speaking up for our community and championing us. I really have loved to see Diego Luna, Shakira, Bad Bunny making videos, making speeches, talking about all the ways that Latinos contribute to the United States. And so I do want to end this first part with taking some joy. So I would love to hear from you about what you love about being Latino in Massachusetts. Before we came out here, we were listening to Un Verano en Nueva York, of course. So tell us about Un Verano in Boston. How do we celebrate Massachusetts?
For me, I am just blessed with a familia sense, meeting Nada and meeting so many diverse individuals. And from every single moment, we are different. We don't all eat rice and beans. We are fortunate with the diversity in those dishes. But what unifies us is that we have similar family values, work ethic, that entrepreneurial spirit, coming to a new country, leaving family members behind to chase a dream. Many our families push us to chase this dream when we didn't even know that it was possible. And in all of our stories, as different as they are and can be, what I cherish the most is anytime I meet a new Latino and I get to learn a little bit about their story and get to know them a little bit more.
Well, I don't think this panel will be happening in Iowa. So I'm really thankful to be Latino and to be in Massachusetts, to have this incredibly community. I was telling Anita, and this is going to come out a little more, but I need you guys to stay with me. The first ALX 100 that we had, I took a friend with me as my date, and we're sitting there, and he's like, he looked at all the Latinos around, and it was eye-opening for me and for him to see how far we've come and how much space there is for us and to celebrate. He's like, Bree, if like a bomb went off in this room, like the Commonwealth of Massachusetts would cease to function the way it is now. I'm like,
Dark.
I'm like, that's an interesting way to put that, but I see your point. There are so many of us in such key positions, and we are woven in the fabric of this, and in part because I will celebrate Massachusetts's background and say that Massachusetts has had a history of welcoming other communities, sometimes by force, sometimes just by passage of time, but a rich, Italian community, Irish community. We have a big Armenian contingency here, and all these other groups. So there's a blueprint for creating community with other cultures, and being here in Massachusetts as a Latina makes me really proud of that.
I will say, I think one of the things I love the most is just the diversity of Latinos and the Latina experience. So, as a journalist, I get to cover people from all over, but one of my favorite stories is highlighting a Latine Rocky Horror Picture Show last fall. It was the first one that the Rocky Horror Troupe did, and they're gonna do it, annually. But where else can you see a bunch of, queer and trans theater kids get to like do a midnight show somewhere in honor of Tim Curry, right? And our members in the NHJ New England chapter, these journalists are in our newsrooms. They're breaking down doors. They're creating opportunities. Shout out to Christina doing that. Shout out to Marcela Garcia with her newsletter, Mira, creating content for Latino communities, both in English and Spanish. So, our newsrooms still have a lot of work to do, but we're here and we're learning from each other as well. And I feel like I've learned so much and found so much joy among other journalists and other Latinos here in the Boston area.
Yes, I mean, I agree with everything you guys have said, and especially because I've lived in Boston, Massachusetts, for 25 years, and I remember what it was like 25 years, a quarter of a century ago, right? I came here to go to law school, thinking that I was going to go back home, that I was not going to stay here, and I really fell in love, and I felt that I belonged here, that I wanted to put my little grain of salt, right, and add to the vibrancy of this beautiful state, and I've seen the difference, right, because back then we were few and far between, and now, I mean, we've grown exponentially. I mean, and by the way, we're a very young community. So 3 out of 4 Latinos are under 45. So think about that. Think what that means for the economy today and the economy tomorrow, the economy of the future, right? More Latinos are going to school, more Latinos are graduating, Latinos are starting businesses. I mean, there's just so much. I go to the supermarket and I see Latino products and I'm like, what? This is not the same Boston that I moved 25 years ago. And there are more restaurants, and I just feel that we're just part of the fabric of the state. And how lucky are we that we have, again, leaders that embrace our Latinidad and that don't feel threatened by it, but see the value add of including diverse people, multiple people from multiple backgrounds, because this country is a country of immigrants. It was like the president said earlier, this country was founded, the only natives are the Native Americans, indigenous people here. Everybody else were all immigrants to this country. And it's beautiful to embrace the diversity of our immigrants, and including, of course, Latinos like us.
Oh, that was beautiful. I want to add, if I may, that when you move here, sometimes people tell you, oh, you're never going to belong. You're not a Brahmin, or you're not Italian, or you're not Irish. And I never felt that way because of the Latino community, because we are new here and we're making strides. And whether it's going to a Ryan Castro concert in downtown Boston, or salsa dancing at the Anchor, or eating all the good food in East Boston, we are here. And so this is our home. And I just want to thank all of you for making it such a welcoming place. So we're going to turn it over to questions from the audience. If you would like to stand, my wonderful colleague Kylie is going to bring you a microphone. This is your moment. Let's keep it family friendly, no spicy words. Any questions?
Thank you so much for this lovely conversation. I'm a young Latina too. My family's from Nicaragua and also half Italian. So I also came here and found my home. I've been here since college. But one of the things that has been really on my mind and weighing heavy on me is the conversation about advocacy for Latinos in the situation of deportation and immigration. And I've had so many of my friends and other universities, there have been incidents of deportation due to advocacy and writing op-eds and, speaking up on those things. So sometimes I even feel myself fearful of advocacy and speaking up because what if I'm next? So, in your opinion, what could be maybe some safe approaches to advocacy without risking, you know, um, being next, if I can put it that way?
Okay. I'll start with something that's effective and quote unquote safe. Reach out to your elected officials. Let me tell you, my inbox is full of people who, and my voicemail, full of people who are on the other side of this issue. And I'll say that to put it diplomatically. We don't hear enough, and I know that we are out there. I know my district, I know who I represent, but reaching out to your elected officials, knowing getting plugged in with organizations, ALX, the Mira Coalition, that are doing some of this work, ACLU, finding out what's the legislation that they're championing, learning about those, and holding your legislator accountable. Hey, are you doing this? Is a way for you to be effective in that is quote unquote safer. You're doing what is within your right to do, and promise you, if you email my office, it stays. Unless it's, yeah.
No, of course, and that's why I wanted her to kick it off because she's the legislator here and she has her stakeholders that she's accountable to. I mean, I would say also um, have conversations, everyday conversations with folks that you know, and not necessarily only with people that think like you. I try every day to get comfortable with being uncomfortable because it's very easy to talk to people that think like you. It's easy, right? Because you're going to agree. Ay, sí, claro, of course. But it's another thing for you to have a clash of the minds, right? And for you to say something that the person doesn't agree with and vice versa. But hablando la gente se entiende, right? And as long as there's respect, as long as there's a way to communicate in a manner that is constructive, I've learned a lot from people that think very differently than me, very differently than me. It's not easy. It's very uncomfortable, right? And sometimes you have to bite your tongue because you don't want to offend the person, but you have to also speak your truth, right? And I think that when we have these conversations, we begin normalizing the fact that it's okay to defend the different positions, right? Without, you're not overstepping any boundaries. You're simply sharing your way of your belief system. And it's really hard nowadays because this society has become so divided that some people are just stuck in there. And you'll know, right? Like if there's a person that you can't get through, then okay, it is what it is. Move on. But try to have these conversations with different people because the more we normalize the fact that Latinos are here, Latinos belong, Latinos are contributors, Latinos are in every space imaginable in this country, then more people are going to continue repeating the stories.
Okay, so real quick, not speaking as a journalist, but as a person who represents dozens of journalists across New England, I would say there are many ways to show up. Our reporters, most of them, they have to operate with what we call like an objective lens or method, and that's a whole other situation, right? But some people, if they're an opinion or if they have a really, depending on their work situation, they can call out things that are going on. Um, and they're protected by their organizations, right? Whether they're writing a speech, they're an opinion writer. I try to show up by helping our journalists, making sure that if something's happening with them, I can support them. I help with their resumes. I help them vent if they have a bad situation or being mistreated at work. But I think trying to get creative about how to show up with various organizations or whoever you want to work with in advocacy is key. I recently interviewed a parent who's working on a startup to create a mobile accessible bathroom. And she's caregiving full time because her son has cerebral palsy, and she's working on this startup. She's also involved in the state, but all she has time to do is give coffee, go and run and get coffee for people who are speaking in front of legislators at committee hearings. But that counts. That's labor. That's a way she's showing up. A lot of people these days, they want to speak out via Twitter, via opinion pieces, but sometimes just showing up and helping out set up chairs in an event, helping text people to meet up or accompany someone to an ICE check-in or an immigration court hearing shows up a long way. Your name's not out there, so you don't always get credit, but it's also a way to do it without being seen and while protecting yourself, So there's so many ways to help out without, just putting yourself at risk like that.
And for me, just really thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the question. Thank you for the courage asking that question. I'm sure you're inspiring a lot of others as to what to do, how to show up, and do it in a safe manner. So thank you.
Agreed, thank you. Another question? We have one here, Kylie, and one there.
Hi, my name is Jose de la Rosa, and I am the co-founder. Hi, Anita. I know you're smiling at me. I'm a co-founder of a healthcare facility in Boston, and the home health specifically. So earlier we talked about how immigrants are being affected, by, I want to say not immigrants. I mean, the patients themselves are the one being affected by what's going on right now with, raids and taking immigrants out of the workforce. So 80% of my employees are immigrants, and, they come from every place. Hey, Haiti, Venezuela, you name it. And so what I want to ask you is, I want you to pretend that you are on my board, right? And you are advising me as the CEO of the company on one specific topic. So I built this company based on diversity. So I built the company based on, the people that I have, that they eat the arroz con habichuela, they eat the mofongo, they blend in. So they belong to the communities that they serve, call them Lawrence, Brockton, whatever they are. But you're on my board. And given that right now there's a lot of talk about DEI and how it should be erased from the memories of all of us right now. And I'm on two boards that they have done that, so they removed the word DEI out of the conversation. But you are on my board, and you know that I built the company based on that diversity. Should you what would you advise me to do today? Should I change the strategy? Do I keep it going? Do I keep talking about diversity in the company, or do I keep it out of the conversation?
Take a first stab at that. So, hola, Jose. Great to see you here. So, Jose was actually a speaker at our first business summit in 2018. Did a great job talking about exactly what he's done, which is built an incredible company that provides home health care and other services. So, my advice would be that the strategy shouldn't change because it's an economic imperative to make sure that we embrace diverse talent. 8 out of 10 net new workers in the economy in the next 5 years are going to be Latinos. I mean, think about that, right? That is crazy. The majority of if you don't embrace a diverse workforce, you're not going to have a workforce. You're not going to have a business. So it's an economic imperative. And numbers talk, right? And words matter, right? So maybe right now, because there's a national trend to the term has been weaponized. Let's put it that way. That maybe you can call it something else, but that doesn't mean you're going to change what you're doing. That doesn't mean that you're going to change your strategy, because your strategy, if you change your strategy, you're going to be out of business. Plain and simple. So keep at it, because those are your workers and those are everybody's workers. I mean, we're here to stay, and it's not a threatening statement. It's just a fact. It's a reality, and we're here contributing. We're here making sure that we're advancing the American economy. Nobody's taking from anybody else. It's about advancement. It's about prosperity. It's about competitiveness. And in fact, Massachusetts needs workers. And Massachusetts, right now, again, this study that we released, and the Boston Globe will share a link tomorrow in the thank you note, to all the data points, because these data points are so powerful. And again, those are the stories. When I say talk about the stories, because data matters and perspective matters, right? And so when you broaden your perspective, when you expand the knowledge that you have, that's powerful. That's powerful. And that helps us address those kinds of issues. And I get it. A lot of organizations are shifting the way they talk about the work, but they're still doing the work. And that's what matters.
And I would agree there, Jose. And knowing the great work that you do, I would advise, how do you lean in more? If you're already focused on home health and you're not doing prescription brought to the house, maybe you expand into that area. Understanding, as we heard, that many people are scared and they're spending more time at home. What other services can you provide to make individuals that are home more comfortable and continue to do the work? But certainly not a time to shut down. Just continue to adapt. Most likely, what everything you've done already to be this successful from 2018 to now, you've likely adapted many times. This is just the next phase of your journey.
I think we had time for maybe one last question. I'm so sorry. We are going to have a reception afterwards on the third floor where we can talk some more informally. But this gentleman here has our last question. Oh, this lady here. Sorry, I'm so sorry, sir. He was in line. If we can we'll add him on, maybe, if that's okay.
Split the time, maybe. Okay, I'll talk fast.
No one's gonna rush, right? We're gonna be okay. Yes.
I'm Bonnie Northern, and I'm Mexican, and I'm from the League of Women Voters. So I have 3 comments about the DEI thing. We're not back. League of Women Voters, we're not backing down. We are prominently talking about DEI and belonging. We're not backing down, not on the local, not on the state, and not on the national level. But I have 2 questions for you, and it has to do with voting. One is, do you have suggestions to those of us who we eat, sleep, live, drink, voting? What suggestions do you have for us for how to promote voting by Latinos? And also, how would you like us to talk to the non-Latinos voters?
So one thing I can mention, and this is just from my experience, outside of Massachusetts growing up, and a few people I've spoken to, so this doesn't speak for everyone, but I feel like a lot of us grow up and our parents are working either 2 or 3 jobs, or they have a stable job, but they go and vote and we don't know about it. And there are generations of Black activists and Black professionals who were doing the same thing, but somehow carved time to go vote and take their children to see them vote, to participate in the political process. And so one thing I would recommend is to, where possible, encourage families to start doing that again if they're not already. Progress comes through, it has to be generational. Otherwise, people lose track of what's happening, and there are steps that are taken back, with each new generation. But, and this might be an overly simplistic answer, but like, I would, I would talk to some local organizations and see if, you know, if there's someone you can partner with, maybe ALX has some recommendations, you know, or, you know, if you use TikTok or you have some local partners who use TikTok, look for, you know, someone in Boston or Lawrence who is, you know, really active and connecting. Maybe that would be a sort of way to get information about voting out and connect with those second or third generation Americans who can then, you know, sort of mobilize their family members and their neighbors and do sort of that relational campaigning that way to get people to vote more. Because we're out there. I think it's just a matter of making those connections, right?
I'm just going to quickly build on that, and of course, a la orden and ALX. But you probably know this because you're in this world. But for those of you who don't know this, every 30 seconds, a Latino turns 18 in the United States. Think about the power of the Latino community if we voted, right? But again, and I feel like this is my theme word tonight, awareness, right? It's perspective. It's making sure that we create the awareness of the power of the vote. And some people wouldn't go out of their way to limit your voting rights if you didn't matter, right? So that is really important, right? And it's important to create this awareness in the next generation, that voting matters, that voting is important. You know, this part of the civic engagement muscle that we have to build to be unstoppable and to be able to be part of those, you know, that policy piece that is missing to make sure that we build more equity that ends up building more economic power for the entire state and the entire nation.
Agree on everything that's been said. I would also suggest looking at the organizations that are currently working with Latinos, from, you know, nonprofits to businesses. Where are they going? And partnering up. You know, instead of finding, facilitate finding the people that need to be registered to vote, instead of replicating the effort of going out and find them. Find the organizations that are already working with them and see, hey, can we partner up and do a voter registration drive? And be able to kind of just meet them where they're at.
I want to squeeze in one last question, sir. Thank you.
Sure. So my name is Sergio Espinoza. I am the president of the Massachusetts Latino Restaurant Association. And we are, I guess we're new, right? We're part of the MRA. We're the chapter that's been supporting a lot of the Latino issues, which I'm really glad you mentioned, the manager on record, right? Which was one of the things that we were hoping would be, you know, would be a bill that would transform, you know, a lot of the opportunities. Luckily, it actually got put in through the back end, right? Economic development bill. So there is still a few things. So my comment is that there's still a few things that make it a little bit of a barrier. So there is still a 50% requirement for the owners to be citizens. So, and then there's also a clarification that we had that we needed to make with the deputy director, which was what is a legal work permit, right? So originally I was told that it had to be residency. We've since adjusted that and been able to actually clarify that, and then we can use regular work permits, and that's actually in your district for Pueblito Paisa on Irving Street. And my other thing is more towards Carlos, right? Being in the hospitality industry, you know, we tend to have a lot of different Latinos working in all different places, but I will tell you, most of them are working back of the house. Being another Latino in the leadership position, like myself, it was typically a very lonely area, right? As manager, general managers, it's typically only one, right? And we tend to have a good edge because we can communicate with both sides, both in English, both in Spanish. I will tell you, one of the biggest struggles is gonna be visas, right? Work visas, which we talked a little bit about earlier, right? I would say some of these opportunities that we have, especially in our industry, is to be able to hire very talented people that have cultural connections to both the front of the house and the back of the house. In a lot of these places, we have universities with people that are already in the food industry, getting their masters, getting business degrees, but one of the barriers is actually getting these visas, right? So one of the things is I wanted to ask, what are some of the things that we can do to be able to help empower some of these people that are looking to get into the hospitality industry, so that we can empower some of these small businesses that are already scaling? You know, they're already past having operations. They're looking for more administrative things. And I can speak to my own business, having somebody, one of my staff members, my business development director, that's already on an HB1, and I have one going through an EB2 visa, and I have two on OPT. Without them, my business wouldn't be where it's at right now. So I wanted to know if you guys had any opinions on that, to be able to bring in some of these Latinos that are already studying here, you know, with these advanced degrees, so that we can keep them specifically and selfishly in the hospitality industry.
That's music to my ears, and thrilled to hear the work that you're doing. But it's, to Anita's word, is more awareness and understanding that the visa process is complicated and is yet another barrier, but incumbent on us to be patient, to wait a little bit longer for the right candidates. And even if in certain countries it may take a little bit longer, then either plan a little bit ahead, because we're being intentional that we want to bring that diversity to our establishments. I would say that yes, it is lonely being one of very few Latino general managers, and certainly the only one within the luxury set, but also very uplifting, because I didn't get into this role by myself or necessarily had a person that was a mentor. As a Latino general manager, it was dishwasher, stewards, front desk agent, housekeeping that have led the way, that taught me the ropes, that taught me how to be a leader, how to fight for them, how to be their voice. And it is so rewarding every moment that I get to share with those colleagues.
Thank you. Any final thoughts?
One thing, and this is based on some conversations earlier, shout out to Sergio Espinoza. One thing that comes up often when I'm speaking with business leaders, especially those who focus on working and hearing out people from historically marginalized communities, is that oftentimes there's not professional development, or there's not capital, or there's not visas, but there are organizations, workplaces like Sergio's, that will offer visas, and yet corporations in the United States that do not want to touch it. And this is an issue that business leaders or advocates are grappling with, you know, across every sector in Massachusetts, including journalism. I know some great journalists who are international students who tried to stay here, and their company, even one company tried. They didn't know exactly what they were doing, but they were kind of slow to get the ball rolling. And then once they did, this friend's OPT was up. She had to go to Canada. Fortunately, she found some work there. She's doing a great job as a business journalist, but a lot of these companies, if they want to retain that talent, they need to do the education. And that's what I keep hearing over and over again, this disconnect between employers who want that talent. They said they don't know what to do, but they have the money, and they might just need to tap into their legal team or work with another organization to get exactly what they want in retaining someone with a visa. And the same thing goes with professional development, and to get people into the boardrooms, into the C-suites, or senior executive positions, because even though 13% of Latinos make up the workforce, just 6% of people of them are in, you know, professional or middle management positions, and half of that are in the C-suite or those senior executive positions. And that, to me, is not a sign of the talent, but what people keep telling me, that the opportunities aren't there. That's constantly what I'm hearing from business leaders, from workers. And so that shows a lack of those opportunities.
Thank you so much. First, I want to say by thanking so much to the panelists. You guys are groundbreaking leaders in our community. I know you champion our community every single day, and I'm so grateful for your insights tonight. So a round of applause for you. Un aplauso. I want to thank all of you for being here, and the Roxbury Community College for hosting us. Give me 1 second to plug the Globe, because thank you. I want to explain to you, for those of you who do not know the inner workings of the newspaper, that we need to hear from you. We want to hear your story ideas. We want to know what's happening in your community. The Globe every year has more and more diverse people in the newsroom that reflect the newsroom, the community, but we still have a long way to go. And we're only going to do the stories that truly reflect this area and that truly matter to people if we hear from you. So email us, call us, you can stalk me, it's all good. I will explain to you how we put stories on the front page if you want. I will explain to you if you want all the, what on the record means, all those things, but we really want to be in partnership with you. So thank you all so much for supporting us. We'll see you up on the 3rd floor for this reception, and thank you all for being here. Yay.